Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tate.
Bob Anthony.
I'm their guest and friend, Alan Singer.
Welcome again, Dr. Alan Singer, educator, historian. We're doing this session on a Thursday. Hopefully it'll come up on Thursday, May 25th. Today is the 25th, right? And we'll upload it to YouTube sometime between now and the weekend, and it'll show up on Manhattan Neighborhood Network at some point in the future. this is being brought to you by the good graces of EVT Educational Productions, Zoom, and Manhattan Neighborhood Network when it airs on their program. And we are taping, I guess, what is it? 2 days, a day after the announcement of Tina Turner's passing. And I don't have any video or anything, but I'm sure enough people have been inundated with videos of Tina since the news of her passing. But I wanted to give a good shout out to her because when she was on her rise to fame back with Ike Turner, I used to catch her at least on one occasion in the backwoods of Waco, Texas, on that, what was that, Chitlin circuit? Because Ike and Tina Turner and Bobby Bland and those folks hit that circuit. And while I was in Texas, if they came anywhere near Waco, we'd check them out. So I caught them live at least once. But definitely, and speak up, guys. I don't want to hog.
Well, I mean, I saw her in Milwaukee in 1983. Yeah, I think that's right, 1983, and she was at Summerfest on one of the smaller stages, not even the main stage, and so we were really close. And she just, I mean, she was in her 40s at that point, and she just packed an super energetic performance. We were blown away. She did more shaking than any 20-year-old out there. So yeah, she gave it all in her performances, and of course her legacy in terms of what she had to go through to get there. Just so admirable.
I always loved the Angela Bassett movie where Angela plays Tina Turner. And then in the last scene for Love, What's Love Got to Do with It, all of a sudden it's Tina on stage instead of Angela. And it was quite amazing.
Yeah, she had an amazing career. And to quote one of her lines, simply the best, better than all the rest. she was bad and survived her days with Ike and came out tougher and stronger. And so rather than take up more time saying what people already know, quick segue, because one gentleman that I respected a lot, because I didn't dig into the background, but former state assemblyman Bill Perkins, or former city council member, who was always a dedicated, concerned, caring individual, working for the best for the Harlem community and his constituents in whichever elected office he was in. He passed sometime last week. I saw the announcement on a Facebook post about 3 days ago, and I think that was days after his passing. I don't know if you got the initial announcement, Bob. Did you?
I did not.
The Amsterdam News ran an obit that I saw.
Yes, yes, and go ahead, Eric. I'm going to try to pull up his picture from the Amsterdam News as you keep going.
Well, I remember when we were battling to try to save St. Thomas the Apostle from the money-hungry, greedy, real estate greedy New York Archdiocese, when they wanted to gobble up all the real estate to deal with whatever they were dealing with in paying off whatever debts they owed for whatever sexual abuse or other stuff. They were shutting down churches left and right. But he was in the forefront of helping us fight that battle before anybody else that was on the elected circuit came in. He was there before C. Virginia Fields, who was the borough president at the time, but she came in early as well. And Charles Rangel, he also joined the fray and did some good work, made a good faith attempt. But Bill Perkins was there from the get-go. And so I've always had tremendous respect for him. especially since I believe he was actually, I was in his district, city council district. But yeah, hats off to him, and he did a yeoman's job, and he did it well. So, but so much for the good folks that did their best for all of us, including Tina and Bill Perkins. We got some other crazy people who are not doing their best for us. And we could actually jump into the state of Florida to show you why they're not doing their best for us. Which one do we want to start with in the state of Florida? There used to be a phrase called Florida man that allusions to the craziness of individuals in the state of Florida. Florida man was a term they used. Well, guess what? There is a Florida man we'll get to later who's just as crazy as those Florida men, but the crazy Florida man has passed so many weird laws that now we got crazy things starting in the schools. Well, the first story in the school caught my attention was some guy was did teach, because every year, quoting his thing, they celebrate the legacy of the Confederacy in the state of Florida. And so he did his own curriculum about the great men and women who fought to preserve the Southern independence, is what he calls it. He did his own video and movie and all that and showed it to his class. And one parent said, this is crazy. They need to be disciplining him for that craziness. Well, they did an investigation in their school district. And if I can quote them, let me find it. It was, oh no, we didn't see anything untoward in his lesson. And so as a result, he will not be disciplined. If I can find their quote, let me just find the quote.
So what is it? Was this like white critical race theory?
This is Confederate history theory, not even theory. Pro-Confederacy teacher. The headline that caught my eye was pro-Confederacy teacher complains about school district's probe. They're probing, they're investigating him for doing this thing. And so the bottom line is, quote, every year our state celebrates and memorializes that valiant, brave fight and the countless sacrifices by our men and women during that what's known as the Civil War, but maybe more correctly titled the War to Prevent Southern Independence. His name is Papa Nicolau. And that's part of the narration on his video. One school board person said, look, this is crazy, teaching Confederacy stuff. So they investigated him. Collier County Public Schools told the Daily Beast, which is where I caught this story, that employee review committee met on April 27th and May 11th. They went through a 90-page report about his Confederacy lesson, and ultimately the committee found that the lesson didn't go against the school's curriculum, and there was, quote, no just cause for discipline, despite outrage from parents and community leaders. So that says you can teach Confederate craziness in Florida schools if you want to, and you won't get disciplined. But he filed a complaint against the school board for instituting a probe of his Confederate lessons. That's how much chutzpah he has. He's gonna go after them for investigating him teaching this crazy Confederate lesson. But
that sounds like somebody complaining about being charged with walking a Confederate flag through the Capitol.
Hey,
suing the people.
Hey, right. But it's Florida,
Yes,
it's
I understand.
Florida, okay, so the flip side of that story, Alan, you had one that you had an update. This female teacher in the Disney movie.
Yes, a woman in a elementary school teacher showed a Disney movie called Strange World, I believe, and apparently in the movie there was a gay character. It's not about being gay, it's just there's a gay character. One family complained about the movie. The teacher, every parent in this class had already signed a permission to see movies like this, not this particular movie. The teacher was being investigated because she didn't get prior approval for this particular movie. Again, the movie just recognized the existence of gays, but it wasn't about anything about being gay.
So they investigated her for violating what?
Teaching gay.
Oh, okay. This is
Okay.
goes against the Florida Don't Say Gay law.
Right, she violated the
Oh.
Don't Say Gay law. Well,
No.
apparently Disney did, which is why the governor is trying to punish Disney. And while Disney is being punished by the governor, apparently she shouldn't have shown that movie. Now, this is a first-year teacher, and she has now resigned. It said, "I'm not working in this district anymore."
Yeah, yeah. I don't blame her, but we've got a problem in that, you know, Florida, because of these crazy laws that Ron DeSantis has been pushing, is making it hostile for teachers to teach, for people to live. I saw an interview on MSNBC with a former Republican House member, I forget his name, but seriously contemplating moving his family out of the state of Florida, which he had represented in the House of Representatives, because he now feels it's just not the right environment for raising his children. It's just, you know, Bob, you got another one. You got another crazy law that it's not. Well, there's one in the schools that you can go to before we go to the other crazy one. What's the school one? Stay with the school for now.
Sure. I mean, if we remember the inauguration of President Biden, there was an absolutely epic poem spoken by a young lady named Amanda Gorman, and it was so well received globally, really.
Globally.
I mean, she did such a great job with it. But apparently, one parent in Florida decided that the poem wasn't proper for children and complained. And you know, just to show how misinformed she was, first she said she thought that Oprah Winfrey had written the poem. And so that was part of the
Okay,
complaint.
an Oprah Winfrey poem. Okay,
Yes.
never
So
mind.
so that, you know, there's one strike against the person. You can tell how much research the parent did.
Yeah, right.
I'm just going to read quickly. This is from The Guardian. Amanda Gorman gutted after Florida school bans Biden inauguration poem, and she vows to fight back. But I'm just going to read a little quote that she made in response. Quote, "So they banned my book from young readers, confuse me with Oprah, fail to specify what parts of my poetry they object to, refuse to read any reviews, and offer no alternatives. Unnecessary book bans like these are on the rise, and we must fight back." So this is as beautiful a poem as you're going to get. And I'll just read one segment. "We braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice." That's, you know, somehow that offended that one parent, and the poem was pulled.
That's the section that they quoted for why they wanted the poem pulled.
It was played even on the news here in New York on WINS. They played it twice. And Larry Mullins asked the audience, "Well, you know, what do you see here?" And
Right.
I don't see anything. It's
They
Florida.
removed it from the elementary school library. They did keep it in the middle school library. Their concern was that, to quote, "this would cause confusion and would indoctrinate 10-year-olds."
That's the key word they keep using, right, Alan? Indoctrination.
Indoctrinate. Yeah.
But we can play a Confederate movie, and that's not indoctrination. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Give me a break here. One more Florida crazy, Bob. Yeah. I mean, I know we shouldn't spend that much time, but that's crazy. I mean.
Okay. Do you want to step out of the schools for a second for that other one?
Step out of the schools and go to the canine. Crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Governor DeSantis just signed a new bill in Florida, which makes it illegal to willfully resist a police dog or police animal of any type, a horse, a dog, and you know, of course you're not supposed to harm a police animal, but the line that caught my eye was you can't willfully resist a police animal. They've raised it to a higher felony, or from a misdemeanor to a felony. You know, among the things you can't do in Florida is mess with their animals. So,
Yeah,
you
so-
know, they're taking rights away from students and from teachers, but the
Giving them
animals can
dogs.
latch onto your leg, and
Yeah.
if you willfully resist that German Shepherd on your leg, you're in trouble.
Okay, I should just lay there and let the German Shepherd bite me to death because if I willfully resist, I'm subject to the more penalties under law.
And
Thanks.
what bothers me about this law is that it harkens back to those films that we've seen from the 60s of the police
Yes,
dogs going after
we know,
the
we
The
know
civil rights.
Birmingham,
exactly what
Alabama.
that- we know exactly who uses those dogs and who they use them on. Yeah, but so Alan, put in perspective the fact that the guy who is responsible for passing and putting all these crazy laws into effect, the don't say gay law, the canine, don't resist the canine law, the you can't teach whatever, let's ban all these books and let's not teach. Fellow by the name of Ron, what is his, the guy he's going after, call him? Ron the Sanctimonious, whatever. This guy threw his hat into the Republican primary field. And that was what, 2 days ago? He says, okay, I'm running. I want to get rid of the T-Rump guy. You can have his policies without him. I'm your man. Perspective, Alan.
Well, the first funny thing is, of course, he's being pushed by Elon Musk from
Yeah, don't malign Edmund Muskie, please. Don't.
so Elon Musk had this whole big thing set up so that DeSantis or the Satan could do his announcement on Twitter, and it collapsed. It burned out for 20 minutes. I mean, two clowns. If they weren't so evil, it could be funny. What's happened is DeSantis again is trying to run actually to the right of Donald Trump to appeal to the Trump base and saying, look, we can have all the insane laws you want, but we don't have to have insanity in the White House. So he's presenting himself as an accomplished right winger who doesn't, rape women and then get sued, and family man.
Yeah.
It's very, very frightening because in one sense, DeSantis is crazy but competent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's not the only crazy in Florida. I know we're going to be talking about the budget crisis, but the leading Republican undermining any debt ceiling discussion is Matt Gaetz, who's another Florida crazy who was also brought on sex-related charges. And Matt Gaetz is leading the effort to bankrupt the United States. I mean, what happened to Florida? Maybe there's something in the water.
Hey, real quick, Tim Scott threw his hat in the ring. Nikki Haley's already in the ring. I hear Chris Christie's going to jump in. Who else?
I didn't hear that. Chris Christie wants to.
Yeah, I heard
that's going to be fun again with him and Trump.
Yeah, he's thinking of jumping in. There's somebody's name, some guy down in, was it Tennessee, somewhere, one of those other. Anyway, the field is going to be quite crowded, and so the question is, the quote front runner is the guy who's currently going to be put on trial in March of next year for criminal charges on criminal 34 counts, minimum 34 counts of some criminal stuff. And the judge just made an announcement that, yeah, T-Rump is going to be put on trial mid-March, late March next year. So the whole Republican field is going to be crazies fighting crazies, and I don't see anything good for the rest of the country. But
unless you have stock in a popcorn company, in that case,
yeah,
you do very well.
Yeah, right. But you know what? Because I don't know how much time we got.
We have about 8 minutes left.
Well, then let's segue to that debt crisis thing, because there's a lot of other crazy stuff we could talk about, but the debt craziness is even worse because these people are probably going to go off the cliff just because Kevin McCarthy gave away any ability he might have had to do any serious negotiation with the Democrats, because he promised that Freedom Caucus, you're talking about Matt Gaetz, he and Marjorie Taylor Greene are the frickin' frack of the Freedom Caucus, that's making Kevin McCarthy scared to cut any kind of stuff, because if they don't like what he does, they can say, okay, we want a new speaker. Just one of them can say that, and he's out of a job. And so the negotiations aren't real negotiations, and the press is not reporting that. The press is also not reporting that this, quote, deficit reduction that they're talking about is a valid issue to raise, but they're not raising it as deficit reduction. They're raising it as cut spending. You can reduce the deficit. Alan, give us any number of ways you can go about reducing the deficit without just cutting programs for the poor that they're not looking at in the 8 minutes we got.
Very, very quickly, Medicare and Social Security come from separate funds, and they're amongst the biggest part of the budget. And they're increasing in what gets spent on Medicare and Social Security because the population is aging. Just look at us here. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to cut the military. Politically, they can't cut Medicare and Social Security. So what's left to cut? There's very little. They're attacking education spending, healthcare spending, daycare. They're attacking veteran benefits. They're even attacking funding for local police, which the Republicans don't want to do. So there's not really much room to maneuver because the Republicans have already cut taxes. And Medicare and Social Security could very easily be put on a sound foundation. Right now, Medicare tax, Social Security tax is only on earned income. So if you have interest income or profit from a company or any other kind of income source, it doesn't get taxed.
Yeah.
But not only that, Social Security is capped. You only pay Social Security on your first $147,000. Now, for most of us, that seems like a lot of money. But for upper middle class people who are earning a lot more than that right now, if they remove the cap on Social Security and they let wealthy people pay on all their income, there'll be no debt crisis in the United States. This is not a debt crisis. This is an insufficient tax crisis.
Okay, let's talk about that, because I hear once in a while somebody on the Democratic side say, close the tax loopholes, get rid of the Trump tax cuts that balloon the deficit. Bob, why don't you find that map that shows how those Democrats cut deficits and Republicans jack up the deficits if you can, just to give people an example. But they're not discussing cutting the tax loopholes and getting rid of those tax cuts so that the Treasury can actually raise funds and reduce the deficit. They're talking about cutting spending on programs that help the poor and the disenfranchised and the worst of us. The social safety net that people have been talking about for years that has been totally decimated by most of these attempts to, quote, cut the deficit. So the fact that they want to cut veterans benefits, even though Obama and a bunch of other Democrats said, no, we need to increase our spending on our veterans, it's antithetical to me that we should sit back and let the Republicans control the narrative of this budget, this deficit, debt ceiling crisis. Because it's not about reducing the deficit, it's about cutting things that help people. The way they phrase it, we're spending too much money, we can't afford it. Well, yeah, we can't afford it if you get rid of your silly ass tax cuts for the rich and you cut the tax loopholes and you readjust, as Alan said, what gets taxed and what can be put into the Social Security and the Medicare pot. But quickly, give the folks a quick briefing, Bob, on that.
Sure.
Before we run out of time.
Sure. I mean, looks like I lost it. 1 second.
I see it. It's on the screen.
Sarah.
It's on the screen. Yeah, it's up
okay.
there.
Okay. well, in any case, let me go back to,
I can see it. Under
okay,
Clinton, they reduced the, the
go
deficit.
ahead.
Bush ballooned the deficit. Bush won. Clinton dropped the deficit down and put us in the black.
Right.
Bush 2 jacked us back up into the ballooning the deficit.
And in the Obama administration, you can see that he decreased the deficit significantly. And going into the Trump administration, you can see where it shot straight up as he cut those.
Yeah, the tax cuts.
And he made those benefits
for the
1%. And at the very end of the chart, you can see that Biden has actually been successful in reducing the deficit. But of course, that's not what Kevin McCarthy is saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Giving a whole different story. But folks, this is the actual fact. These are the numbers.
Yep. Yep. And the press is not reporting this story correctly. They're going back to they've not come together on their cost cutting, and so there's an impasse, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's an impasse because Kevin McCarthy cannot afford to give in to a compromise that might help the country, because he'll be out of the speaker's job. And they're not even reporting that fact about the fact that this is not really negotiations in good faith.
Exactly.
He can't go back to his Freedom Caucus and say, oh, well, I had to compromise, because they'll say you out of a job. We don't want you as speaker. Exactly. How much time?
And
we're out of time?
Exactly. No, we have 1 minute left.
So rather than try to talk about any of our other stories, let's just talk about the fact that this primary with Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley is just going to balloon into more folks coming into the Republican fray. And that may, in normal circumstances, accrue to the benefit of Donald Trump. But with Fani Willis, I saw a report where the Fulton County DA may bring her charges sometime in August. So if she brings her charges in August, that's a criminal probe, correct, guys?
Yes.
And if Trump is on trial in March of 24, I think we may have a kind of a different Republican primary going on, don't you?
Exactly. And with that, we're just about out.
All right, folks. This has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And I'm their guest and friend, Alan Singer. Thank you for having me.
Folks, thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you the next time. Stay safe.